Jeez, Clinton. All right. Good evening. Good evening. You know what? There's not many people in here. I'm going to take this off for today. Good evening, everyone. My mind went blank for a second. I'm calling to order this special meeting of the Collingswood Board of Education on Thursday, March 17th, 2022. Roll call, please.
Mr. Connor?
Present.
Mr. Chu?
Here.
Mr. Craig?
Here.
Ms. Henry? Ms. Mello? Ms. Rivera? Mrs. Savarino?
Here.
Mrs. Sheridan Celia?
Here.
Mr. Bowman is absent, and Mrs. Caden?
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have no executive session at this time, but we are going to go into, or have a committee of the whole session, excuse me. So can I get a motion to enter committee of the whole?
So moved.
All in favor? Okay, so first, I feel I would be remiss if I didn't address the absence of Dr. McDowell this evening. He very much would have liked to have been here. However, he's taking part in an important family commitment that was planned months ago. And had it not been for the delay in the governor's budget address, the commitment would not have conflicted with this process. He lives in Collingswood. He's raising his children here. He has a daughter who's already enrolled in our pre-K program. And we truly believe, just like the rest of us, he wants the best for our children. Next, I want to take a minute to clarify the purpose for this meeting tonight, and I ask you to bear with me because it's describing the budget process, which is a bit dry and can be confusing, but I think it's important to try to clarify. So we are meeting here tonight to approve the final submission, let me try that again. Not the final. We are here tonight to formally approve the submission of a budget for our district to the New Jersey Department of Education. Under normal circumstances, this would occur during a regularly scheduled board meeting. However, as many of you already know, due to the delay in Governor Murphy's address on the budget and the timeline for submission, a special meeting needed to occur. After this meeting tonight, the budget will be submitted to the state for review to ensure we are proposing a balanced budget that meets all statutory requirements. The Department of Education will then, in turn, approve the funding allocations for next school year. There will be no formal budget presentation tonight. However, the superintendent will be presenting a comprehensive overview of both the budget process and the budget on Monday, April 25th. However, our budget process doesn't stop with the submission to the state. Between now and April 25th, the board will continue to work with schools and administration to make sure we are properly allocating funds to meet the varied needs of all of our students. And schools are working through their schedules and course offerings as we speak, based on the proposed funding, and we'll have more information for parents and students in the coming weeks. The next public board meeting is on Monday, March 28th here, and will include a discussion of budget topics during our committee of the whole session, with the final budget presentation being given by Dr. McDowell taking place on the next Monday public meeting on April 25th. The public will have the opportunity to comment during both public board meetings, as well as has the opportunity to and should contact their school principals with any questions or concerns between now and April 25th. So before we move on from that, are there any further clarifying questions about what we're voting on tonight or the budget process in general from board members?
I did have just a small question. I understand that we're approving the whole budget and it comes with chunks of money in various sections, just say. So when we get down to the minutia of line items later in this process, does the chunk stay the same, or the chunks can also be reallocated? Does that make sense?
The chunks stay the same.
That's what I
Schools, we do fund accounting. So when you look at the resolution, it says general fund, that's a chunk. Then the special revenue fund, which is our grants that we get from the federal government, that's another chunk. And then debt service is from your previously approved bond back in 2005. That's another chunk. We can transfer within the general fund, but we can't transfer between funds, if that makes sense. We can't like take out of 20 and put in 10 and vice versa.
Correct.
But we
And
can do it within the biggest chunk,
Yeah.
which is your main general fund budget, we can transfer
We can
within
move around
that.
from
Yeah.
that. Okay, thank you.
Hope that makes sense.
I had a question. So if we are submitting the budget so that we're within the guidelines that we need to, the schools are aware of how much funding that they're going to be allotted? And then does it work the other way where they say, we need this, and then that is where the budget is drawn from?
It's the latter. So Dr. McDowell proposed a zero-based budgeting this year. So he asked the schools to draft their budgets based on the schedule that they're proposing for next school year. And the schedule was based on the projected enrollments that they were provided. And all of those budgets came back to the board office in January. So all of those needs were kind of thrown into the pot. And then we realized, how much, we're always over because everybody wants everything. So what is being approved tonight obviously is a balanced budget, but it's addressing a lot of the needs that we're seeing in our kids that are coming back from COVID, as well as security, and just the things that are popping up. We do have some capital work that's proposed in the budget that's going to come out of the capital reserve. So we tried to hear everybody and address what we could within the funding that is allowed. Knowing we can't do everything all in one year, we would love to. I mean, if I had $3 million, I would give everybody everything, but that's not how much extra we have to play with this year. So I hope that kind of answers it. But the budget starts at the school level. So it's not me going to that, it's not the opposite saying, Mary, you've got $10, tell me how you're going to spend it. It's the opposite.
Right, just to clarify, the needs are presented from the schools?
Yes.
The needs are presented from the schools, and then they're prioritized with?
Yes.
In collaboration with the schools and the superintendent?
Yes. Each school presented their budget to the superintendent and the assistant superintendent for curriculum before their final budget was submitted to me. If that makes sense.
And now that we're at the stage where we're sending something to the state, those schools kind of know what their proposed funding allocation is. So they know the pot of money they have to work with. Is that accurate or no? Or is it still
Not entirely. Usually, once the budget's done in April and I hit the final transmit button, then they get a copy of their final budget. Because, the board does reserve the right. This is approving to go to the state for review and approval. The budget's not 100% final until April 25th. So it can change between now and then. So I usually wait until the final budget is done, and then I give the administrators copies of their final budgets after the April meeting.
Just one other clarifying question. Like you said, this is the beginning of the process. There will be, things may be reshuffled in the individual buckets, as you put it. But does the state have to reapprove that, or that's just an internal Collingswood?
No, I have to submit, so tomorrow morning when I hit the transmit button, there's actually paperwork I have to send, I have to email. One of those is the board resolution approving, showing them that we actually approved the budget to be approved by them. And then in April, I have to submit another resolution. If there's a certification that's completed in April, that I go online and I certify. So if there's no change that was made to the budget between when they submitted it to the state and the public hearing, I check a box and I say no changes have been made in the last month. If we make changes, I have to check that we've made changes, and then I have to outline the changes that were made, and then I obviously have to revise the budget and resubmit.
And when you're talking about changes, you mean if there was issues with line items?
Yes, any line
That
item.
has to get reapproved?
Yes.
At the state level, okay.
Yeah. And it's usually, again, at that point, as long as what the state's looking for is there's certain things they're looking for, right? Like I said, I'm in compliance, they're looking at our healthcare costs, they're looking at our overall administrative costs. We're running preschool, so they want to make sure that our preschool is in line with what we are approved for preschool. So 90% certainty, even if we changed at the board level, it's a quick reapproval at the state level because it's changing within line items, usually at that point. So. It's happened once in my career that the general fund has gone down because after we've done everything, the board has come back and said lower taxes by X. So it lowered on the resolution, it lowered the general fund tax amount and the total general fund budget amount. It's happened once. I mean, it can happen here, but, you know, in that case, then yeah, the state would have to reprove it.
And I just wanted to also clarify, this is the same process that we've gone through for years.
100%. The only difference is in years past, and I've been here long enough, but we would start giving the board more budget information in like January and February. We didn't have that this year because we didn't get the zero-based budgets back from our school administrators at that time. And then we wanted to give the secondary complex enough time to meet with the staff and the kids for developing the schedule. So we didn't want to just, you know, I didn't want to give you something that would be 100% wrong based on what's out there. So, you know, I don't, the process is the same, it's just the information in the past has been shared with the board probably 3 to 4 weeks earlier. So hopefully next year it'll be earlier, but this was a new process for all the administrators this year, so that's why.
Anyone else, or I'm not seeing anyone press a button? Okay, all right. Great. Now, finally, before we continue, sorry, I forgot. Before we continue with the agenda, I want to speak on behalf of the board to the rumors and confusion that have been swirling around about budget cuts and programming, particularly at the high school level. We want to start out by saying that we are just starting to see the light after being mired down in fear and anxiety and isolation over the past few years with this pandemic, and all of us can completely understand that any added layer of change or uncertainty at this point can feel like just too much to handle these days. And then add on top of that the district is using a new budgeting process this year with the zero-based budgeting, like Mrs. Coleman just said. Its goal, which is a good one, is to maximize our resources to ensure we're able to meet the many student needs that have always existed, in addition to the ones that the pandemic has caused or exacerbated. All sounds fabulous. However, there has very clearly been a significant breakdown in the communication during this budgeting process that has fueled rumor, speculation, and anxiety in the staff and school community. Some of us as board members were in attendance at a faculty meeting last week and witnessed that breakdown firsthand. Since then, we know steps have begun to be taken to work to remedy and repair the communication moving forward, from department meetings at the school level to letters home to parents and an open student forum held yesterday after school at the high school. But that work is not done either, and it must continue. It is vitally important that everyone involved in making school successful feel included and informed. While there is no formal budget presentation happening tonight, here's what we can tell you as a board. The budget is the board's largest policy document. It is the blueprint for carrying out the district's priorities for the following year. The main priorities for every year are to provide a well-rounded education for all of our students with a robust program of studies that includes rigorous academic courses, college and career pathway options, world languages, music, and the arts, taught by highly effective educators specializing in these areas. Rumors have been everywhere that programs like world languages, music, and the arts are being cut, and we can tell you as a board that no such proposals have been given to us, nor would they, because that would be contrary to the goals set out by Dr. McDowell, the district, and the board. Coming out of the pandemic, as you can imagine, many more needs have arisen, and within this budget, we hope to address some of them, with additional supports for mental health, academics, and school culture, increased opportunities for professional development and collaborative planning time for teachers so that they don't feel so isolated, infrastructure expansion since we are quite literally running out of space in this district, and school security concerns. The reality of any budgeting process is that we operate with a finite amount of resources that can be allotted for each school, as we were just talking about. Therefore, each year, schools need to make some difficult decisions in how they prioritize budget requests. Ideally, they're able to not only maintain and improve their programs, but also add some additional resources that can enhance the services that they provide. This is the stage that the schools are currently in right now, and they're working with their teams to do just that. We strongly encourage anyone with specific questions or concerns about programs or issues at their child's school to contact the principal because they are your best resource for finding solutions and answers. They are the decision makers on the ground at their school. We as a district are continuing to strike the right balance between communication being too much or not enough, and we fully recognize that in this case, the answer was not enough. We hear that, and we appreciate your continued feedback on that effort as we try to continue to do better. So with that, let's move on with the agenda. Can I get a motion to adjourn committee of the whole? And a second? All in favor? We have reached the section 4, which is the first section for public comment. The purpose for this public comment section is to discuss items listed on the agenda. Additional, more general comments may be made later in the meeting. The public is reminded that attempts to resolve all concerns and complaints should first go through appropriate staff members and administrators. The intent of public comment is to give the community the opportunity to provide feedback to the board. We will be actively listening and taking notes so that we can take all that is being said into consideration. If appropriate, clarifying communication will go out later in the week or through your school administrators. And for more general concerns, they may be discussed by the board during future committee meetings. So with all of that being said, if you would like to make a public comment, please come up, stand, state your name and address, and please keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. Thank you. There's like 3 people here and no one's acting as if they're going to stand up, so I'm going to assume we're good. Okay. So then we're moving on to section 5, the Buildings, Grounds, and Finance Committee. Mr. Craig.
Good evening. This is usually where I would read the statement, but I don't see it on here and I have not memorized it yet. By next month, I will work on that. Yeah, but essentially we do review the budgets, and this is a resolution that was outlined. We were just approving what we will be sending off to the state. This is the resolution. So I will read that out and then vote. So we move on the recommendation of the superintendent to approve the following resolution. Be it resolved that the Collingswood Board of Education approves the 2022-2023 school district budget for submission to the Camden County Office of Education for review and approval as follows. Budgeted general fund is $37,652,668. A local tax levy of $17,815,107. Budgeted special revenue fund of $8,091,277. Budgeted debt service fund of $1,260,363. The local tax levy, the same amount. Total base budget of $47,004,308. The local tax levy of $19,075,470. Be it further resolved to seek approval for the applicable tax levy adjustment, enrollment adjustment of 0. Be it further resolved to use the banked cap as applicable, $0. Use of the bank cap is to maintain a current programming that cannot be deferred or incrementally completed over a longer period of time. Be it further resolved that pursuant to NJAC 6A 23A-7.3, the Collingswood Board of Education establishes $25,000 as the allotted maximum expenditure for travel. To date, thus far in 2021-2022 school year, the Collingswood Board of Education has spent $0 on travel. Be it further resolved that pursuant to NJAC 6A 23A-14.2, Collingswood Board of Education authorizes a withdrawal from its maintenance reserve account in the amount of $100,000. Be it further resolved that pursuant to NJAC 6A 23A-14.2, the Collingswood Board of Education authorizes a withdrawal from its capital reserve account in the amount of $413,148. Withdrawal is to fund security upgrades, fire system upgrades, lighting, and press box.
Thank you, Mr. Craig. So we are seeking approval of item 5.01 this evening. Do I have a motion to approve? And a second. Questions or comments from board members?
I just want to, it's 0 for the tax levy. It means that we're not increasing the tax levy or the cap. What is that?
Correct.
Where are you reading in the paragraph?
Yeah, be it further resolved the first.
The first one.
The second be further resolved right after that.
Oh, right, the banked cap.
Yes, we don't have bank cap to use, and we don't have any enrollment adjustments. These are the statutory things we have to let the public know. So Collingswood does not have bank cap, and we didn't qualify for an enrollment adjustment this year.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Sorry, go ahead.
I think we're just, again, I was clarifying that. So the enrollment adjustment is 0, but the tax levy adjustment is,
There is no tax levy adjustment.
okay.
Yeah, for enrollment. Correct, yeah.
Roll call, please.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was like, where are we
I wasn't
leaving
sure
off?
where we are.
No, me either. Mr. Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Chu,
Yes.
Mr. Craig,
Yes.
Ms. Henry? Yes. Ms. Mello? Yes. Ms. Rivera? Mrs. Severino?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheridan Celia? And Mrs. Caden?
Yes. Moving on to section 6, the curriculum committee. We just have one quick thing to present there. Ms. Henry.
The Curriculum Committee oversees and approves the district curriculum and assessment programs, as well as field trips, home instruction, co-curricular programs, and the school calendar. And tonight, we have item 6.02, which is a high school field trip. So we're seeking approval of that.
So approval for item 6.02. Do I have a motion to approve? No, it's just the one.
Just the one, and that's because it fell between the two board meeting dates, and I want to get it on.
So Siri said so moved.
Yeah.
Is there a second? Questions or comments from board members? Roll call, please.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Mr. Chu?
Yes.
Mr. Craig?
Yes.
Ms. Henry? Ms. Mello? Ms. Rivera? Mrs. Severino?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheridan Celia? And Mrs. Caden?
Yes. Finally, we are at section 7, which is the second opportunity for public comment. I'm not going to read the whole statement again for the 2 people that were here, or 3 people that are here, but if you would like to, this is for any comments, general comments that would be made. Stand, state your name and address, and keep your comments to 5 minutes or less.
None?
All right. With that, do I have a motion to adjourn this special meeting of the board? And a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for coming out this evening, everyone.
Everybody go have a fun St. Patty's Day.
Yes.
Be
Happy
safe,
St. Patrick's
please.
Day.